Then we had the Great Resignation. Now all of a sudden we have something that they're calling the Great Exhaustion. You know, they got to come up with trendy buzzwords to all these things. But this is something I've actually been feeling. And I know a lot of y'all have been feeling this too, because I've seen y'all talking about this in the comments of some of my videos, specifically the one that was talking about how time has sped up. I've seen a lot of y'all talking about this. So let me know down in the comments below if this is something that you can relate to, because I'm here to tell you, I've got a lot of free time on my hands these days because I retired from the workforce. I no longer have to show up somewhere each and every day except for the places I want to show up to. And I can tell you that sometimes I still feel pretty doggone drained. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I think there's a reason why people are feeling very tired and very exhausted. The first thing I think is pretty obvious, and that is the fact that people have to work now probably more than they ever have, because it's very hard to make ends meet these days. And, you know, not just that people have to work harder and work more, but they're working harder and more for what seems like less money because the cost of everything has gone up. Wages haven't increased. So you are essentially working more, and even though it might look like you're making more money on paper, the fact of the matter is your money doesn't go as far. And that can leave you feeling pretty freaking worn out. That's something I personally experienced, not because my money wasn't going as far, but because time felt like it was speeding up over the last couple of years. And I found myself working 14 to 16 hour days almost every single day for no additional pay, by the way. And that was because it felt like I couldn't get all the stuff I needed to get done in a day. Like time was just slipping away. I had to sit down in meetings with my manager every single week because she was trying to force me to go home, to not work so much. But because I was a company man and, you know, I wanted to show up for my team and my job, I felt like I had to do that. I felt like I owed it to the company to get my work done. That is not the way you should live your life, though. That is not how we should live our lives, because life is about much more than working. And if you live your life that way, I can tell you from experience, it's going to leave you feeling pretty freaking tired, very drained. But that's not the reason I believe people feel very tired. I think time itself is another reason. Like I mentioned, it feels like time's speeding up. So it doesn't seem like we can get all this stuff done in a day that we get done. Like time just slips away. What was weeks now days, and what was months is now weeks, and it just seems like everything is just going so fast. It's very hard to slow things down. I've been trying numerous things in my life. I've been distancing social media. I've been distancing myself from technology. I spend as much time as I can out in nature. And those things do a lot, but it still doesn't seem to slow time down enough. And I never get back to the way time felt back 15, 20 years ago, or especially when I was growing up. And a lot of people, well, you're getting old, because that is very rough and on that say, oh, time speed up. But explain this to me. There's a lot of variables, including kids, that I'm talking to. So I don't think it's just that. I think it goes much deeper than that. But because we like to sleep, also leave us feeling very tired because we get caught in this hustle culture. We have to work extremely hard and work a lot to get things done. I think it was not saying that that is very draining. That he was feeling pretty depleted because we were putting all our energy into trying to get things done, but it seems like I can't ever get caught up. And that you have social media, the internet, AI, technology in general, and all of these things are fighting for our attention. That is literally what these are kind of designed to do. They're designed to pull our attention in every way possible because there's monetary value on our attention. So that's what these platforms do. And the bad part about that is that they are very addictive. I fall victim to this too. Sometimes I look at my usage report on my phone at the end of the week. Unless you have reverted back to a flip phone and you don't actively use social media at all, I think you're probably going to fall into this category. And I'm telling you that this stuff, it depletes dopamine. It can leave you feeling very depleted. A lot of us, we wake up, first thing we do in the morning is we look at our phone, and that's usually what we do before we go to bed at night. But if you're doing that the first thing in the morning, it is immediately depleting your dopamine. And that is going to drain you. It's essentially sucking away your life force. And that's what I feel like social media and the internet's doing. It's essentially dehumanizing us, number one, but I also believe it's sucking away our life force. And I think that also goes without saying that that is going to leave you pretty freaking drained, because it's taking away all of your energy. It is essentially leaving people soulless, and I think that's a big thing that's happening. Because it's definitely altering people's emotions. If you think about people and the way that they've changed over the years, there's been a very profound shift in the way people act, the way they interact with one another, and just the way they are in general. And I truly believe that is because social media and the internet and all this technology we're surrounded with, it is draining us of our life force, which is pulling away our emotions. It's making people very numb, cold, callous. It's making people almost turn into like NPCs where you just run on autopilot. You have no emotion, you have no empathy, you have no compassion, you don't have anything, you don't feel anything. You just float through life aimlessly. And I think that's kind of where we're at. But if that's the way you live your life, you're going to be pretty doggone drained. And if you also think about what social media and the internet and all this technology does, it actually injects a lot of negativity into our lives. It is a very easy pathway for people to feed us agendas. And when they feed us agendas, a lot of it is very negative stuff. It is stuff that instills fear in us. It is essentially spiritual warfare. And that ties into our life force, because when we're being pummeled with this stuff and it's chiseling away at our spirit, that is also going to leave you feeling very drained. I mean, because honestly, that stuff is just very exhausting. How much of that stuff can you actually look at in a day and still feel like your sanity is there? I mean, essentially, because it almost makes you go insane, because there's so much stuff that we are being exposed to that we probably shouldn't be seeing and looking at, that honestly probably doesn't even affect our lives that much to begin with. But when we see it, it's very relatable and it feels like it's very personal. So all that stuff, it whittles away at us and it makes us feel exhausted. And that's another big thing that I think is happening. We're exposed to too much, and not just too much, but it's too much of the wrong kind of stuff. And that in turn has also created a whole lot of division. People now are divided over pretty much everything, and that also can leave you feeling very depleted, because I think a lot of us, we're kind of people pleasers. We go out of our way to make people happy, but now it feels like that you have to walk on eggshells around people, because if you do the wrong thing or you say the wrong thing, people are going to fly off the handle, because they're very unhinged these days. And it seems like the smallest little thing is enough to set somebody off. So now we have to tiptoe around all the subjects that we probably want to talk about. We have to try extremely hard to try to please people and make people happy. And that is very, very exhausting. And that also ties into relationships in general, because when you have all this stuff that's going on around us and all this stuff we're exposed to, and there's all this division, it bleeds into relationships. The dating world is exhausting. I don't even think I need to go too far into that one, because if you're involved in the dating world and you're out there trying to find a partner, you're going to know it's pretty it's pretty exhausting. It is something I don't even expose myself to these days. I love my peace, I love my solitude, and that is where I keep myself, because I just don't want to deal with that stuff. And that's where a lot of people are right now. They check out and they're going their own way because most people simply don't want to deal with it. So with all these factors considered, it is not hard to see why people are feeling very exhausted. And it's not hard to see why we might be headed towards the great exhaustion, as they call it. But while all that can sound very disheartening, I think there's a very simple solution to all this. And I think we can solve this problem. And I think it really comes down to doing things in life you enjoy as often as possible. Finding something that fulfills you outside of work, outside of the internet, outside of technology. And that is key here. I think if we can distance ourselves from our screens as much as possible, get away from all these agendas and all this noise, the better off we're going to be. And I truly believe that nature and our natural environment is the best way to do that. Not only is it very good for our mental health, it's also free. And that's something we don't think about, because like I mentioned before, it's very hard to make ends meet. So finding solutions that don't cost you any money is very, very important. And I'm telling you right now, nature is free therapy. If I'm feeling down, or if I'm feeling exhausted or depleted, the first thing I do is I go outside. I let the sunlight hit my skin. I walk around in nature, and that immediately makes me feel a lot better. And when you couple that with distancing yourself from technology, you're also distancing yourself from all of this stuff that is fighting for your attention. So then you can focus your attention on the things that actually matter. And that's going to be different for everybody. You have to kind of forge your own path when it comes to that. But if you can put yourself in silence and make time for yourself, it's going to leave you feeling very drained. I mean, because honestly, that stuff is just very exhausting. How much of that stuff can you actually look at in a day and still feel like your sanity is there? I mean, essentially, because it almost makes you go insane, because there's so much stuff that we are being because it can be used for jewelry or because it's rare. But somebody said it has value, therefore it has value. And in short, gold and money has value because it's just the way things are. It's the way society is set up. And these are the things that we tell ourselves. It's just the way things are. We have to work our entire lives chasing money until we're old enough to retire, until we're 65, because it's just the way things are. We have to pay taxes our entire lives and fork out what is probably half or more of our income so that the people at the top can get rich off of us, because they're basically using us as a means to make the top 1% or the top 0.1% even more wealthy, because that's just the way things are.
No.
But it doesn't have to be the way things are. And you know, the thing about it is, the only reason we have to pay taxes and we have to get money and we have to do all these things is because we've been programmed to believe that. And that just goes to show you how well the programming has worked. The propaganda, the indoctrination, all this stuff has worked extremely well, and we all believe it's just the way things are. So we stay stuck in this rat race our entire lives, working our lives, again, the best years of our lives away, while we're in our prime, so that we can someday retire at the ripe old age of 65, so that we can get out and do all the things that we've been putting off our entire freaking lives. But just like these cicadas that hatch out every 17 years, live a couple weeks and die, that should not be the lives that we are destined to live. Because I'm a firm believer that each and every one of us, we're here for a purpose. But I believe that the purpose we're put here for is much greater than we give ourselves credit for. I think that if there's something that we can dream up, it doesn't matter how big it is, we can achieve it. But it takes being able to go after it. It takes having the time and the capacity and the bandwidth to do that. But when you're stuck working a 9 to 5, you're stuck in a daily grind and you're stuck chasing all these things that we believe are going to make us happy and that's going to fulfill us and that we believe we need to have, it takes us away from being able to pursue that dream. And that's a terrible thing, because if you think about our tiny, small fragment of an existence on this planet, we shouldn't squander that. We should make the most out of that we possibly can. We should get out of life everything that we can and live to our fullest potential. We should strive to find out what our purpose is, and we should go after it. We should not let these superficial things and these things that we've been programmed to believe hold us back. Because if we do, we're living just like these cicadas. We're living most of our lives underground, suppressed. We're being held beneath the people at the top. We're being held beneath ourselves for most of our life. And then all of a sudden at 65, we suddenly grow and sprout our wings. We become free and we fly around. And we enjoy this existence of what it should be like. We enjoy it for this very small fraction of time, this very small piece of our lives, and then we're gone. But the most important thing that we can do for ourselves is break away from that. And the only way to break away from that is to stop participating. If we don't want to pay taxes or we want to pay less in taxes, there's only a couple options. It's either move to a country that has less taxation, or don't work as much and don't make as much money, or don't work at all. Don't buy as much stuff. That's less stuff that you're getting taxed on. These are the only options we have, and in both cases, it basically means not participating. Because if you leave the country, you're not participating in this country. Therefore, you're not paying this country's taxes. And if you work less or you don't work at all, then you're not participating. I personally chose to get out of the workforce. I chose not to participate. I retired myself out at 39. Because it got to the point where I just started seeing these things. I started seeing things for what they are. All these things I'm talking about here, I started realizing that. I started realizing that I was going to work my entire life away. And if I made it to the age of retirement, I was going to get out and I wasn't going to be able to do any of the things that I had dreamed of doing. And one day, the pain of realizing this and continuing to work my life away was much worse than the pain that I would have experienced if I got out and I was dead broke and I had to struggle to make ends meet. And I knew at that moment, when that pain of continuing to do that thing, continuing to be trapped and stuck in the system, when it was worse than the alternative, then it was time for me to get out. And that's exactly what I did. It was a tough decision. I mean, I worked 20 years in that career, and I loved my job. I loved the people I worked with. I loved everything about it. But I did not love the fact that I was working my life away. And even though I loved the job, it still was taking me away from the things that I believed were more important. Because I believe that myself, just like everyone else in this world, is meant for greater, is meant for some greater purpose. And I wanted to be able to find out what that is and realize that purpose and make it happen. It was scary, and it's still scary. And I'm sure it's the same type of fear that these cicadas experience when they emerge from the ground and they sprout their wings, and they're now exposed to all these new predators and this giant worlds around them, and they're probably completely clueless and lost and don't know which direction to go. And that's exactly what I experience. But that's life. I mean, that's life in general. Most of us are just flapping our wings, going where we think.
Have you ever looked at your bank account after a completely normal month and wondered where all your money went? You didn't buy anything crazy, no major purchases, just regular stuff, groceries, a few meals out, maybe a new phone because your old one was getting slow, normal expenses, and yet somehow you're sitting there thinking you should have way more money than you do. The thing is, and this is what most people don't realize until it's too late, a lot of the stuff we buy today just isn't worth it anymore. Not even close. Prices have gone completely insane on things that used to be reasonable, and we're all just sort of going along with it because that's what everyone does. My name is Nick, and I help people understand money and how to actually keep more of it instead of watching it disappear on overpriced garbage. If you want to stop feeling broke all the time and actually figure out where your money should be going, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if this helps you out. Let's start with something that's probably going to make some people defensive, but it needs to be said. Fast food isn't cheap anymore. It just isn't. Remember when fast food was the thing you got because it was quick and affordable? That was the whole point. You could grab a burger and fries for a few bucks and be on your way. Those days are gone, completely gone. Now you're looking at 12, 15, sometimes $20 for a meal at McDonald's or Burger King, $20 for fast food. That's not even sitting down at a real restaurant with actual plates and someone bringing you water. You're standing at a counter or sitting in your car eating out of a paper bag, and it's costing you the same as a decent meal at a casual dining place would have cost just a few years ago. The value proposition has completely disappeared. You're paying premium prices for food that's still the same quality it always was, which is to say, not great. And people are doing it anyway because it's convenient, and we've all just accepted that this is normal now. But it gets worse when you think about restaurants. Not fast food, but sit down. This used to be regular restaurant budget. Maybe once you eat dinner, no big deal. Now, going out to eat has become this luxury. So you sit down, order a couple of vomities pies because why not? And before you know it, that's $60, $70 for two people. Like one set of place that's not even fancy, just a regular restaurant. Nothing. Then you got tips because of course you're eating it. You spend $100 on dinner, hundreds of whatever. You can get it. It's not like you bought something whole value, you ate food, and now it's over. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a meal out, but when you're doing this multiple times a week, which a lot of people are, you're talking about thousands of dollars every appearing into restaurant bills. And for what? Food that honestly you could have made at home for a fraction of the cost. Maybe it wouldn't be quite as good, sure, but would it be good enough to justify spending 5 or 6
All right,
times
cool. I'm
more?
gonna hop on mute now.
Probably not.
So
Most
our
people who
goal for
are
today is
struggling
to get the Levi
financially,
Strauss
and I
company
mean really
in
struggling to
the
save money
companies
or
list.
invest or build
We're
any
gonna
kind
try
of
and get
wealth,
these
they're
denim
eating
things
out
because
way
it
too
gives a
often.
bonus to, I
That's
think,
usually where a
entertainment,
huge chunk of
or
their
where is it?
income is going. They don't even realize it because it's $20
Sh
here, $30
maybe
there,
I
but
don't
it
remember what
adds
that
up
was,
to
but
this
anyway,
massive expense category
yeah.
that's completely optional. Then there's
fine.
cars.
Okay.
Brand new cars, specifically, this one drives me crazy because the math is
they like
so
to try to get them
cars
positive
with the worst
motivation.
financial you
So like
can only drive your car off the dealer lot,
motivating
losing
or
20% of the value
generally
instantly. You haven't even got home yet and are down dollars. Keep appreciating more value every single year. Meanwhile, you're probably making payments on because most people finance cars these days. So you're paying interest on top of the purchase price, and the thing for it is actually becoming worth less and less. It's the opposite of investment. It's just burning money, and people do it because they want new car smell and the feeling of having the latest model. They want to see the driving some current status stuff, basically. Which you're matter, you're not going to be just straight up. 3-year-old used car is going to be digital. Yeah, some Blazers have to make depreciation has already happened all the utility without that hit. Getting the student. People don't want to hear this because they convince themselves they deserve a new car. They work hard, they should treat themselves, except for your car being being broke in the next few years. Hence, as specifically branded luxury clothing, designer stuff, all equal ways. Sometimes you quality items that last. A good pair of boots, a well coat, things like that can be worth spending more on because it lasts years and they but that's not expensive clothing. They're buying lots of buying games. They're buying the ability to tell people they own something for luxury brands, and they're paying absolutely insane markup for it. You can buy a plain white t-shirt for $10, or you can buy essentially the same shirt with a designer logo on it for $2. Same cotton, same factory, probably. The only difference is the logo, and people pay the $200 because they think it makes them look successful or fashionable or whatever. Meanwhile, nobody actually cares what brand your t-shirt is to you. Nobody's impressed. They might notice the logo, sure, but it's not changing their opinion of you. You're just $190 logo reading. This applies to so much clothing. Designer jeans, 3 handbags, the quality difference between the version and the normal version is usually what you pay for it. And fine if you have money burned, but most people do this don't. They're going credit card debt to design clothes because they do not. It's marketing convincing you that you need these things to be personally as a person. You don't. They are no one really control. Hiking engagement used to be pretty affordable if you were smart about it. You could find decent, like, set a budget hotel, eat at inexpensive local places, have a time of spending fortune. That gotten way harder now. Hotels are insane, but budget options are expensive compared to and people are still taking the elaborate vacations they can't afford. Feel like they have to. They'll post taking photos on social media. And they think it's a good thing. So they can't really work. Put a bunch of it on credit cards and then spend next year paying it off with for travel. Because being somewhere can be great. It's experiencing different cultures, all that half out. But not if it's not if it's preventing you from saving money or investing in your future. There's this attitude while young you have to experiences. Sure, experiences are valuable, but you know what else is valuable? I'm broke. Not all the time, not having to work until you're 70. All your money on vacations in your 20s. Maybe better approaches is just go home, explore your own region, find free to do. Leave the expensive or travel for when you usually avoid it. But people want they want to spend more time to talk to streaming services that has over 6 now. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO, Amazon, Apple TV, Paramount, whatever else exists. Each is $10, $15 a month, which doesn't much. When you add them all up, being $60, $70, $80 a month just for streaming service. That's close to $1,000 a year. For television. Now think about how much you're actually watching one or two services regularly and touching, but you keep all of them because you might want one thing on them eventually. Not literally anything else. It's that what it's only you barely use and people are still paying for things to build stream now. They're $150 a month taxes with unchanneled network. It's completely people doing it all done can't figure out alternative. So they keep paying. And it's not just pay. People are doing this with membership too. They sign up and pay $50, $60 a month for the first 2 weeks, never go again. But they keep paying because canceling feels like admitting the fee. So that's another $500, $600 a year just gone. Money that could have been invested or saved or used for something that actually matters. But instead it's going to a membership you're not using because you don't want to admit you're not going. Then there's the whole thing with buying new electronics every single year. New phone comes out, people line up to buy it, even though their current phone works perfectly fine. New Apple, new tablet, new smart whatever. The old one still works, but less better if you're using it. This is probably one of the dumbest ways people does it to some degree. A new iPhone costs what, $1,000 now? Maybe more model. And people in the year 2 years won't be functional. One has a better camera, or processor or whatever. But does it actually improve your life in a meaningful way? Probably not. If you're using scroll, social media, and pictures, phones are all fine. And it's just constantly updating when they already own perfect well. Tell me, figure out what day people feel like they need the newest model, even when there's a new version every with minor improvements and people fall for it every time. Meanwhile, if you just kept your phone or laptop for 4 or 5 years instead of upgrading constantly, you'd save thousands of dollars. Thousands. That could be invested. That could be earning returns. But instead, it's going to Apple or Samsung or whoever because people think they need the latest gadget. The worst part is that these devices don't even last as long as they used to. They're designed to break or become obsolete faster, so you have to keep buying new ones. planned, obsolescence is real, and it's screwing everyone over. But people keep participating in it because they want the shiny new thing. They want to feel like they're keeping up with technology, even though technology has advanced way beyond what most people actually need for their daily lives. Here's another one that's gotten completely goods, branded cleaning products, expensive out of control, premium household kitchen gadgets, designer furniture, all that stuff. People are
Reason we're
spending way
researching
more
this
than
is
they
for the
need
sewing
to on
machines
basic household items
and
because they think the
mechanical
expensive
booms,
version is
because
somehow better.
if we're
Sometimes
gonna
it
do
is,
this,
sure. But most of the time you're just paying
this
for a
company
brand
right
name.
here, or one of these
Generic
two,
cleaning
so
products
these
work just as well as the
close
name
ones.
brand
I don't
stuff,
really get
but
anyone else
cost
can build
half as
this.
much.
I
That
think
cheap
they'll need
spatula is a fancy one for really Sonoma. It needs a $100 blender unless they're people just anyway because they didn't that expense means better quality, and sometimes that now around having a perfect kitchen. While people are buying specialized equipment ones right here use pasta makers collecting dust, expensive when they only use two knives, they all just stuff space and furniture now. Finance a car or house their pet, buy a couch that's out needed in 5 years. They expensive store so they put it on command and pay interest on couch. That's insane. You can get a perfect good couch for $100 if you're willing to run to their stores, marketplaces, whatever. But people always want everything to look perfect and match and be Instagram worthy. So the thousands of people they can't afford. Then there's what I call status symbol. This is when people buy not because or even really want them because they think it makes them look successful. Expensive watches, designer bags, luxury cars they can barely afford. All of it is trying to project an image of wealth to other people, and it's completely backward. Actually, wealthy people usually are the ones doing this. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. It's people who want to look wealthy but aren't actually building wealth who fall into this trap. They're spending money on things that depreciate in value just so they can look successful to others and randoms who don't care about them. They're doing that sure. But they've got the nice designer purse, so everyone thinks they're doing great. It's all fake.
You know
All
how
of
he's
it.
saying,
And
like,
the really sad
the
part
status
is that
spending
this
thing?
kind of spending is often driven by insecurity. People think if they have
Sometimes,
the right stuff, they'll feel better about themselves or other
I'll
people will
comment this
respect
later.
them more. But it doesn't work that way. Respect comes from character and actions, not from the brand of
Oh,
your
there it
handbag.
is.
And feeling better about yourself definitely doesn't come from going into debt to buy things you don't need. So where does all this leave us?
Sucking.
Well, pretty much everything costs more than it used to, and most of it isn't worth the price anymore. Fast food is expensive and terrible. Restaurants are overpriced. New cars are marked up like vacations cost more than prescriptions, leading everyone dry. Electronics were priced and designed to break. Household stuff is unnecessarily expensive, and status spending is just throwing money away to impress nobody. The solution isn't that complicated, really. Stop buying stuff you don't need. Stop trying to keep up with everyone else. Like, stop falling for marketing that tells you you need the newest version of everything. Just stop. Cook at home more. Keep your car longer. Buy used when you can. Cut subscriptions you don't use. Keep your phone until it actually breaks. Buy generic products. Stop trying to look actually building wealth. You can either look wealthy or be wealthy. For most people, every dollar you spend on influencing other people, buying stuff you don't need is all that's not right for your fair. And yeah, maybe that means your life was impressive. Idea. Maybe you have the newest phone or the fancy car or the most exotic vacation clothes. But you know, savings, that's what will financial security instead of the appearance of it. That's worth way more than any of this other stuff. But most people won't figure that out until it's late. Anything. That's not the point. Buy things that actually you, things that prove your life or give you happiness. But be honest about what those things are. Most of the stuff people spend money on doesn't actually make them happier. It just makes them broke. And being broke definitely doesn't make you happier. The reality is prices have gone up on everything and they're probably not coming back down. Companies have figured out they can charge more and people will still pay. So they keep raising prices, and people have a choice. Oh, we stop buying. Okay, no, we old phone that we can put dinner or whatever and buy it over. It's not that hard to actually figure out it. Instead of just doing what everyone else is doing. People who figure this out early are the ones who end up financially later. The ones who spend money they don't have money, are the ones who end up stressed about money their entire life, wondering why they can't get ahead even though they make decent money. All these little expenses that seem reasonable in moments, but add up to thousands and thousands of dollars a year that just disappear. So be where your money's actually going. Contract for a month if you need to. You probably spending on stuff there. Then what you cut because usually there's a lot of things, and that would be doing something useful than paying for your 7th or your 3rd meal out.
Expo Summit. It all began in one of the two Barcelona. Astronaut interrupting your meal and giving you a free bracelet.
And when he was selling, there was some guys and they stole my wallet.
And
Oh,
then
wow.
bracelet. And now they came to me and told me, if you don't give me money,
Okay.
Do you want box? Do you want to fight? I said they're trying to fight me.
They're trying to square up with a 40-year-old woman. Oh my God.
We've identified a scammer right here.
Who does that? Yeah.
Boy, mate, you giving away free stuff?
Free stuff.
I saw you give a guy belts.
Belt. You
For,
like belt?
for
Yeah.
free?
I buy it. I sell.
Ah,
it.
you
Later,
sell them.
later.
I see.
Give me something for my family.
These are for free?
You're free.
For free? Thank you.
No. You do the camera, video.
I thought it was free. I see you.
What the fuck shit? This is ridiculous. What is everybody in the area is being fucked around and annoyed because of this one retard. There's one retard ruining it for everybody.
Take one's meal. Thank you very much. Thank you. It smells now. It split my skull. Think so? You actually got it for free. Did you offer you belt for free? Did you get money? 10 euros?
Yeah, you know why? Because you're on holiday with your wife. You don't want to deal with it. Look at you. You don't want to have to deal with the PD wrong. You don't want to have to fight with somebody. You don't want this to ruin your meal. Scott, look at that. Look at that huge fight. You want to get in the way of no, just okay. I have to pay you $10. You're gonna leave me alone? Wow, this is the best deal of my life. Okay, there you go. Bye. Mega pint, yes. It is a mega pint.
Scammers owe Tyler 1. The thing I really don't like, if you were to just walk up and say, hey, you want to buy this for me for a couple of dollars, once they're done with dinner, far more reasonable than walking up, you're playing cards with a lady, and a guy comes up to you offering you a free belt. Get the fuck out of here.
If it was me, I'd take all these people, I'd put them in jail and deport them. Send them back wherever these people came from. Send them back. It does not matter. Oh, but they weren't doing anything wrong. Yeah, but they were trying to be fucking annoying. Get rid of them. It's just really like, what are you doing? And if they were here.
Change the video capture. Give me a second, guys. Picture.